Want to turn simple lines into a mesmerising, swirling illusion? Today, I'm going to show you how to draw the Tangle paradox, which is one of the most kind of optical illusion inducing, if that's the right way of saying it, Zentangle patterns. So grab your pen, relax, and we'll get started. So today I don't have a Zentangle tile, which is a circular tile. So I'm going to break with the normal tradition of Zentangle practice, where we don't use any kind of drawing tools to get ourselves started. But certainly, with Zentangle that I'm doing today, I'm not actually using rulers or a compass to create the actual pattern. I'm just kind of getting myself started with getting my string down. So you may or may not be able to see this string. I'm just going to go over it a bit more to make it a bit darker, so that you can see what I'm doing a bit better. And what I'm going to do next is just to mirror that previous line. Mirror maybe isn't the right word. In Zentangle terms, we would usually refer to aura-ing a line. So we're just recreating that previous line a small distance away. So we're just creating that all the way around the outside of that, or the inside of that. Okay, so I mean, this is just the way that I am doing paradox today. Paradox is not done in a circle traditionally. So I'm just going to show you how you can create it in a circle. So what I'm going to do, this orb shape, border, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to split that into smaller shapes. So once I've created those first 4 lines, I'm just going to estimate where the halfway point would be and split it. And then I'm going to split these other ones in half all the way around. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Lisa, and I'm the owner of Create and Calm with Lisa. I'm a certified Zentangle teacher, and I teach regular lessons on here on YouTube to let people know about what Zentangle actually is, and I break down the individual patterns for you. So I'm going to start the first paradox. So I'm going to just start at the top here, just because I can. So paradox, you start at a corner and then you almost retrace that line, but then as you go up to the top of the next line, like so it would be the next one along, you get a bit wider out. And then you're doing that all the way around. So just sort of fanning out, starting in the corner, getting wider, and just do that all the way around. Now, what I would always say, if you're creating this at home, I think paradox is much easier if you rotate your tile. But if I were to rotate my tile on screen, I actually think that would be a bit weird for you. I don't want it to cause you any seasickness or whatever the correct term would be. But just be aware that at home you might prefer to actually turn your tile as you go for each stroke. And of course, we should ink in the edge of that. I'm actually just going to ink in all the way around. This ring shape. Some of those have gone a bit, some sections of that have gone a bit straight, but it will not be noticeable once all the filling has been done and once I start to add some shade. But just take your time, no hurry. Okay, so now we are actually ready to go on to our next tile. Now, if you start your tile, your next space where I started the previous one, you're going to get a different meta pattern. A meta pattern is basically what happens as you create one tangle or pattern that you're working on. You get an almost like an incidental pattern that's created by what you're doing. So just I'll show you a couple of examples of previous paradox patterns that I've created at the end of the video, but just now I'm just going to start from the top instead of the bottom, and you'll see the different effect that you can get if I had started from a different place later on. So you're just doing this exact same thing, but this particular section going in a different direction. You can see I rotated my tile a little bit there. You can see that it's just force of habit. And it's very, once you start doing this pattern, you get into a bit of a rhythm. It's quite enjoyable, which is what I quite like about it. But I am going to confess that it's not one of my favourite tangles. I'm breaking with tradition because if you've been following me for any amount of time, you'll know that I say, I love this tangle, it's my favourite tangle, this is one of my ultimate all-time tangles, blah, blah, blah. Today, this is not one of my favourite tangles, but I still enjoy it when I do it. So we've done the first two. So the way that I did it, because I started at the top in this one rather than starting at the bottom, you can see I've created this fan shape. So we're alternating between one square that we complete will start at the bottom left corner and the next square will be the top left corner, and we'll just alternate that all the way around this space. So I'm just going to, I've said before in my videos, I'm just going to keep my video running in real time, and I'm not going to speed it up because I want to just emphasize the fact that there is no hurry in Zentangle. It's not a race. It's just about being in the moment, focusing on each individual stroke. So I'm not going to interrupt your thoughts by, putting on music that might be distracting or whatever. But by all means, if you're following along, I'll try to remember to put chapters in this so that you'll know where you can skip to if you've completed your tile, all your paradox all the way around. But yeah, just repeating this all the way around the circle. I'm wondering if you can hear the wind outside. It's very, very windy today here. I live in Glasgow in Scotland, for anybody that doesn't know that already. So we're certainly not strangers to windy weather, I can tell you that much. It's quite relaxing, this tile, this tangle. And the reason that paradox gets its name is because you'll see these individual strokes that I'm putting down. I'm always putting down a straight line, and yet you see that it produces those curves. It's a curvy line. So it was given the name paradox. And it was one of the founders of Zentangle, Rick Roberts, who originally deconstructed this one. And you'll often see Rick adding a paradox into his artwork. It's a very versatile tangle, because as you can see, I'm doing it currently on a circular format. So it's being used effectively as a border tangle, but it doesn't need to be a border tangle, it can just be used as a filler tangle. You can have it in triangles, you can have it in squares, you can have it in loads and loads of, I've seen it in hexagons and pentagon type shapes as well, I'm sure. But I just thought today it might be quite nice just to work on a round shape. So with the fact that some people have been asking me to create a video on paradox, that's actually making me aware that there may be tangles out there that you would like me to teach on my YouTube channel. So if there are any tangles that you would like me to feature, let me know. It might very well be that there are videos out there on YouTube, but I know that when it comes to myself, I do watch different Zentangle teachers teaching the same tangles. It's just nice to see different people's takes on it. So yeah, just give me a shout if there's something in particular you would like me to teach. So one point to make about the fact that I'm not rotating my tile. If I rotate my tile, I'm starting from the same, like my hand will have to move in the same way. My hand always feels more confident and steady when I'm drawing towards me. You might find yourself different, but I certainly feel more in control when I'm drawing towards me. But when I'm drawing away from me, that line was a bit wobbly. When I was drawing away from me, the line actually went a wee bit further away. Kind of got away from me to see there as well. So that's one reason why, if you are creating this tangle at home, that you might enjoy doing it. Just, I've put that a wee bit too wide as well. You might enjoy doing this with rotating the tile. And the other reason for rotating the tile, other than making it feel like you've got more control of what you're creating, is just the fact that it's good for your own comfort. The Zentangle's all about unwinding and relaxing and making things easy for ourselves, isn't it? So if I were drawing this with the camera off, I think my work would be a bit neater. But it'll still look all right in the end. It's really wide. No mistakes, no mistakes. One video that I was watching where Zentangle were teaching paradox, Rick was saying if you don't do your tangle all in one sitting, if you're creating paradox and the phone rings or the doorbell goes or something like that, if you just leave your line that you're working on at that point in time kind of unfinished, that means that you'll know where you were creating your line at last. Because sometimes it's hard to know if you have gone away from paradox where your last line was. But I mean, if you put paradox is quite a forgiving tangle. If you put your line down, if you draw two lines out from the same point, nobody's going to notice really once everything's all finished. It's quite good that way. Okay, so that's obviously me all the way around the circle now. And this is exactly as the step outs are from Zentangle HQ. So the right way of putting this is not to say that paradox is a masculine tangle. I don't know what the right way is of putting it, but I've never really found that the original paradox format was something that appealed to me. It just looks a bit jaggy, or I'm not sure. It's just not my personal preference for a tangle. But I think it may have been Zenjo um, who taught paradox, and then what she did, or whoever this person was, when you have those fan shapes or any of the points where you've gone like out the way and you've formed the wider line, just add a little bit of rounding in those areas. And to me, all of a sudden, this just seems so much more pretty to me. You might prefer it as the original step outs, have it. You know, variety is the spice of life and all that. Different people like different things. But this way is just the way that I personally feel that I prefer it to be. So I'll go all the way around here, and then you can either join along as I go, or you can wait until I get to the end and see what all the tangle looks like, and you can decide whether or not you're going to add this rounding to yours. This is the tangle that I referred to. I think it would have been 2 weeks ago, or was it last week? Maybe it was last week I taught munching on here on YouTube, and Rick had deconstructed, in case you haven't watched the previous video, Rick had deconstructed paradox, which I'm teaching you today. And Molly Hollybaugh, who is Maria, the other founder of Zentangle, Maria's daughter, Rick's stepdaughter, not Maria, Holly. Oh, Lisa, get your words out. Molly was playing around with trying to get to grips with paradox, and although she can do it very well now, when she was first learning it, just wasn't clicking for her. So she just was playing around, and then she ended up, as a result of experimenting with getting paradox right, she created munching. So if you haven't seen my munching video, I'll share the link to that. Munching is a really, really good tangle. I love it. It's created in a very different way at the start. You end up with, you see how we started this, like, was in a kind of square-ish shape, but munching begins with dots randomly placed. And I just think it's not just about the tangle looking a bit more rounded. I just think it adds, like, the line being a bit thicker just kind of adds in a different kind of look in general. So yeah, I definitely, I would never personally create a paradox tangle again without adding this rounding into it. It's quite enjoyable just to go around your tile and look for the bits that haven't actually had your rounding on them yet. I don't think I've mentioned today, but in case you're wondering the kind of pen that I'm using, this is a wren pen. Wren pen, as in the spelling of the bird, WREN, from Tom's Studio. So, for all that I love my tangling, I'm kind of aware, or was kind of aware, of the amount of pens that I would be going through, and it didn't sit right with me. So my husband and my daughter gave me this pen for a birthday or a Christmas. I think this one was for Christmas, because it's a refillable pen. So it just means that I have to top it up with ink when it's required. And it's it's a refillable version basically of the PN pen. If you're familiar with the PN pen, Zentangle use a pen that has a plastic nib on it quite often. It's a Micron PN pen. There's a Micron range of fine liner pens that Zentangle use. They most often would use the 01 and the 05, but like I say, sometimes they do use the PN as well. So this is a bit more of an environmentally friendly version of that pen. And it's currently got an ink that's, I don't know the name of the ink, but it's a really dark blue. I think darker even than navy. When I first got it, I thought it was black, but it is actually just really, really dark blue. It's really lovely. There are bits in the centre where I could potentially have been adding more ink, but when you get closer into the centre, it's a bit more intricate, and I'm kind of thinking if I start to do that, I might actually end up just smudging some of the lines and ruining the illusion. So you don't necessarily need to take the rounding all the way into the centre of it. Just whatever you think when you're creating yours, obviously. There we go. That's us all the way around, and all the extra ink has been added. So what I'm going to do just now is I'm going to move to my pencil. I'm using a pencil just now that I'm only using it basically because I'm recording this. So it's a matte graphite pencil by Faber-Castell. You can use any pencil that you have at home. It doesn't have to be a B grade artist pencil or anything fancy at all. Just whatever pencil you have at home. That will be perfect. And I'm going to go around the inside as well here. So now just bringing in the blending stump, just smoothing that graphite out towards the centre, but not bringing it so far in that we lose the highlight that we're trying to create with the graphite. And then same with this here. And do that all the way around. And that pencil just adds a bit more oomph really to everything. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to add some graphite so that we emphasize where the middle fan shapes are here. This is an optional step. Don't feel like you have to do this to yours. just basically going around the edges of every other fan shape. So now we're back at the start. So I'm just going to bring in my blending stump again and just go all the way around my tile. It just basically means that you are going to have some of those fan shapes receding a little bit, and some of them will be a bit more pronounced. So once you've come round to the end, that's basically as much as I'm going to teach this afternoon, because that's paradox in a nutshell. But you could, like, if you wanted, you could add some orbs into the center of these paradox. You could add orbs into every one. You could add other filler patterns. Maybe you could create little strokes with your pen just to kind of add a bit of a flick. There's no kind of specific rule on this. What I'm going to do is just kind of draw an aura line in here. And as you can see, when I'm creating this freehand, there is certainly no way that anybody could claim that this is a perfect circle. But that's what Zentangle is all about. It's just doing everything to kind of relax into the process rather than for creating something that's supposed to be perfect. Please don't aim for perfection. Not with Zentangle, because I find personally that I get so much more out of this art form when I just relax into the process of it. There are other art forms that I create, such as mandalas, and I'm also into Celtic knots as well. You have to have a bit more precision with those art forms, but Zentangle, just go with the flow and relax into it. So I'm creating this smooth transition, so I'm softening the lines, the pencil lines into the centre a wee bit. You might want to create a filler tangle in the centre of yours. I think maybe an N Zeppel pattern would work quite well in here. Whatever you would like to do, really, it's your work. So all that's really left for me to do with this individual tile is to add my chop, this being my identifier. I'm owning this work of art for myself. And I'm also going to show you some tangles that I've created previously. So I've got this paradox here, which was from one of the project packs. It's a fairly recent one, I think, but I can't remember what number it was. So when I was alluding before to when you start a new paradox shape, Where I've gone here, and I've, instead of going every time that I've been starting a paradox, starting at the bottom left hand corner, I was alternating it. You get that kind of the fan shape. If you were to create the tangle and have it start at the same point every time that you start it, you get this kind of a shape here instead, which is almost like, I think I've seen Zentangle HQ describe it almost like a towel, as if it's being rinsed of water. Does kind of remind me of that kind of shape as well. So just so you know, that's the kind of shape that you would get as a meta pattern if you had joined your, if you'd begun your tangle at the same point each time. You can do this obviously on triangular tiles as well. So this one is a 3Z tile, they're called. And in case you want me to point it out, these are a series of triangles. So the first triangle, the bottom of it is here, the baseline is here. So I've done the paradox into a triangular shape rather than today, it was more of a squarish one. So then we've got another triangle that has its side here. Then there's another triangle here, and then the fourth one is here. So that's how that one was created. And just an idea in case you ever want to give your envelopes a little bit of embellishment. This is not one that I'm going to send. I think I was just practicing on this. There's Enzeppel that I was referring to a moment ago. But you've got paradox right in here. So yeah, lots of ideas. You can see every single one of the paradox shapes here. I've kept it just as the original Step Outs had it. But I do prefer it so much more with that rounded off shape. So which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the rounded off one, or do you prefer the original Zentangle one? I hope you've really enjoyed this tutorial today, and I hope you'll join me for another one in the future. So thank you very much if you have joined along, and I'll hopefully see you at another video in the future. Bye.